Ever notice how music from 1975 gets overlooked? These songs top the charts, but then vanish from radio. Let's explore the forgotten music and the stories behind them. Fame sends us straight into David Bowie's complex world. The artist started his journey in London's mod scene during the early 1960s, but his breakthrough came through a fascinating collaboration with John Lennon. Many don't know that Bowie actually despised this song initially, viewing it as a cynical commentary on celebrity culture rather than the celebration many thought it to be. Behind the scenes, Bowie was going through a cocaine-fueled period that nearly destroyed him. The song's creation came during his Thin White Duke phase, a character he later admitted he couldn't even remember creating due to his excessive drug use. The irony wasn't lost on critics, who noted how the song about fame's destructive nature was actually written during one of his most self-destructive periods. The track features John Lennon on backing vocals, though many fans miss this detail. Lennon also contributed the title word fame, which was inspired by a heated argument Bowie had with his manager about the music industry's exploitation of artists. Stevens and Misty represents one of music's most controversial genre crossovers. I'm Misty, holding your hand. Stevens, known primarily for novelty songs like The Streak, decided to take Errol Garner's jazz standard and transform it into a country pop fusion. This decision outraged jazz purists who considered it sacrilege. The recording process was equally contentious. Stevens insisted on using traditional Nashville session musicians rather than jazz performers, creating tension with his producer who wanted to maintain some jazz elements. The resulting arrangement was so different that Garner himself initially didn't recognize his own composition. Unknown to many, Stevens recorded the entire song in just one take, claiming he was too nervous to do it again because he knew jazz aficionados would criticize him regardless of the outcome. Billy Swan's I Can Help was recorded in Columbia's Quad Studios, but Swan was actually working as a security guard at the studio when he wrote it. The song's distinctive organ sound came from a $49.95 Rhythm Ace organ he bought at a local department store, a purchase his wife strongly opposed. The recording sessions were plagued with technical difficulties, and several veteran session musicians walked out, claiming Swan's unconventional recording methods were unprofessional. Despite these setbacks, Swan insisted on maintaining his original vision, even when the producers pushed for a more polished sound. The song's success led to an unusual problem. The cheap organ Swan used broke down, and the model had been discontinued. He spent years trying to find an identical replacement for live performances, eventually buying every used one he could find on the market. You lived through this incredible era of music transformation. Share your memories of these songs in the comments below. Hey friends, hit that like button and subscribe to our growing community of music lovers who appreciate the real stories behind these songs. The Ritchie family's Brazil emerged during disco's peak, but few know the group was actually created by record producer Jacques Morali after a failed attempt to break into Broadway. The original version of this song dates back to 1939, but Morali's decision to remake it sparked heated debates about cultural appropriation in the music industry. The production team faced significant backlash from Brazilian musicians who argued that the disco version stripped away the song's authentic samba roots. Despite the controversy, or perhaps because of it, the track dominated dance floors across America. The group's formation was particularly controversial as the original members were selected purely for their looks rather than their vocal abilities. Here's something that might surprise you. None of the singers in the Ritchie family spoke Portuguese or had any connection to Brazilian culture. The group actually recorded the entire song phonetically, learning the pronunciation just hours before entering the studio. Barry Manilow's Could It Be Magic
Could this be the magic at last?
draws its melody from Chopin's Prelude in C minor, but classical music purists were outraged by this adaptation. Manilow, who started as Bette Midler's piano player in New York's Continental Baths, faced intense criticism from both classical and pop music critics for this creative decision. The song's production marked a turning point in Manilow's career, though it nearly didn't happen. Clive Davis initially rejected the song, calling it too theatrical for commercial radio. Manilow had to fight for months to get it released, even threatening to leave the label if they didn't support his vision. Few people realize that Manilow actually recorded the song twice. The first version, which included a full classical introduction, was scrapped after test audiences found it too pretentious. The release version still retained some classical elements, but was significantly shortened. Neil Sedaka's Bad Blood features Elton John on backing vocals. But their collaboration came after years of professional rivalry. Sedaka's comeback in the mid-70s wasn't the feel-good story many believe. It was fueled by resentment over being pushed aside by younger artists during the British invasion. The song's lyric, while seemingly about a romantic relationship, were actually Sedaka's veiled commentary about the music industry's treatment of veteran artists. Elton John's participation was particularly ironic, as he represented the very British invasion that had initially derailed Sedaka's career in the 1960s. The master tape of Bad Blood was almost lost in a studio fire. The version we know today was actually the backup recording, as the original master tape was destroyed, along with numerous other recordings, in a mysterious studio fire. Remember buying these records at your local shop? Tell us about your favorite music store memories in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe and share this video with friends who'll appreciate these stories from our generation's golden age of music. Tony Orlando and Don's He Don't Love You Like I Love You.
Don't love you, and it never will, like I love you.
Reworked a doo-wop classic, much to the original writer's dismay. The group's formation was actually a marketing strategy gone wrong. Orlando was initially just supposed to be a voice on records, but unexpected success forced the creation of a real group. The song's production created tension within the group, as Dawn's vocals were actually performed by session singers on the recording. This practice was common, but created authenticity issues when the group performed it live, leading to accusations of misleading audiences. Few fans know that Tony Orlando initially turned down the song, believing it would damage his credibility as a serious artist. He only recorded it after his producer threatened to give it to a rival group. Hamilton, Joe Frank, and Reynolds faced internal strife during the recording of Fallen in Love. The band members were barely speaking to each other,
I'm falling in love again.
and each recorded their parts separately. The group's name itself was a point of contention. Reynolds had actually left the band before their biggest hit, but they kept his name for brand recognition. The song's success created legal problems when Reynolds sued for royalties, claiming his name's use entitled him to a share of the profits. The remaining members argued that the song's success came long after his departure and that he had no right to the earnings. The harmony vocals on the chorus were actually recorded by the band members' ex-wives, who were brought in as session singers without being told exactly who they'd be backing up. Casey and the Sunshine Band's Get Down Tonight closes our journey through 1975's forgotten hits. The band's formation in Florida came after Casey worked as a record store clerk, studying disco records to understand their formula. This calculated approach to creating hit songs earned them criticism from music purists who accused them of being too commercial. The signature guitar sound in the introduction wasn't actually a guitar. It was created by recording a regular guitar solo and manually speeding up the tape. This technique was controversial among musicians who saw it as cheating, but it helped define the band's sound. The band actually recorded an earlier version of the song with different lyrics about social justice, but their label demanded they rewrite it to be more dance-focused. Casey later admitted regretting this compromise. The Sylvers brought us Boogie Fever, but their story begins far from the disco scene. This family band from Los Angeles started performing in the 1950s as the Little Angels, taking inspiration from the Jackson 5. What many don't know is that their father actively opposed their music career, leading to significant family tension. The song itself was actually written by Kenny St. Louis and Freddie Perrin, who were frustrated with the Sylvers' reluctance to embrace disco. The band members preferred soul and R&B, but their label pressured them to adapt to the disco trend, causing internal conflicts that would eventually contribute to their downfall. The success of Boogie Fever came at a steep price. It pigeonholed the group into the disco genre, despite their versatile musical abilities. Several family members later expressed regret about not fighting harder to maintain their original sound. These songs of 1975 deserve their place in music history, even if radio stations have forgotten all about them. Your stories and memories keep this music alive. Hit subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and join us next time for more stories behind the songs that shaped our lives.